Gone 12 o'clock, and people are coming into the Lunch and Learn webinar room to see our latest in the series of Lunch and Learn showings. Importantly, Jeffrey Ward is here in there, so I'm very grateful for him. Let me introduce myself and then our speaker today. I'm Justin Anthony. I'm the coordinator for continuing education in this School of Theology, of which Lunch and Learn comes under. It's one of the buckets that I look after. And I'm very pleased to welcome Hilary R. Dow Ward, who is our speaker today. Hilary is the Director of Development for Peabody College at Vanderbilt University. She's worked in K-12 and higher education, as well as in various nonprofits across the country as music teacher, school chaplain, learning specialist, program administrator, and more. She's a perpetual student herself, holding the degrees of Bachelor of Music, Music Performance from the University of Kansas, a Master of Arts in Religion from Memphis Theological Seminary, Master of Arts in Education from Union University, and a Doctor of Education in Education Administration, Leadership, and Policy from the University of Memphis. She's an interdisciplinary practitioner and reflector, and we're very pleased to welcome her today for a presentation on the films of Kevin Costner, Parish Pedagogy, If You Build It, They Will Come. So, Hilary, over to you. Oh, and just to let people know that every couple of slides or so, there will be an opportunity for questions of discussion, which for our participants, if you put your questions, observations, comments into the chat box, I will convey them to Hilary when we get to those points of the presentation. Now, Hilary, over to you.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, and I'm absolutely delighted to be with you today. Thank you for the honor of your time. I know you could be spending your lunch break doing many other things, and so I am delighted that you are with us today. I am so proud to be joining you from one of the classrooms here in Hamilton Hall at the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee. So if you are of the Sewanee flavor and can envision where I am, the trees outside are beautiful and the weather is just stunning today. So good to be with you. Now for this topic. Now, a couple of things about me doing a webinar series. One, if you've ever been with me at a coffee or in one of my classrooms, you know it's going to be very hard for me to sit still. So I'm trying to stay within the scope of this little box here that I've been given. Number two, if you've ever had a class with me or have talked to me for more than about 3 minutes, you know that I have visuals. And so here I am trying to be clever, sharing a PowerPoint. For differentiated learning purposes today, and will up my head block some of it at some point? Probably so. But don't worry, I'm going to give you many opportunities to hear these words in lots of formats, to see them, to hear them, and then of course to discuss them by putting in questions in the chat. So thank you again for being with me today. And now let's, as they say on the internet, as influencers say these days, let's get into it. So this topic of parish pedagogy, if you build it, they will come. About 4 months ago, I was asked to do this Lunch and Learn, and I thought, what would be a clever topic? What is something that we could talk about that might be catchy? And at the moment, I was thinking about, as I often do, successful programming. How do we complete the object of successful programming? How do we implement it? How do we build it? How do we continue to have it? How do we provide it? How do we make edits to it? So on and so forth and so on. And the phrase, if you build it, they will come, always comes to mind. Now, I actually want to talk about the movie Field of Dreams for just a second. If you have seen it, and it's been a while, I highly encourage you to reacquaint yourself with the film after our talk today. If you are young and have never seen it, which some of you might have not ever seen it before, I also highly encourage you to take a look into it after our time together today. What I want to focus on is the adventure that Kevin Costner's character went on to figure out if he builds it, they will come. Now, as a little quick synopsis for the purposes of this title, I want to explain a little bit about how it came to be in the movie. Kevin Costner's going about his business on his corn farm in Iowa with his family. Out of the blue, on one, sunny afternoon, he's out doing his work and he hears, if you build it, they will come. And of course, he's like, what was that? What was that? Who was that? He continues to hear it. He continues to think about it, and he involves other people. He asks the question to others, if I build what? Who will come? He takes takes it into process. He takes it into consideration. He goes on a little pilgrimage. He thinks about what it is that he needs to build in order for who to come. Now I want to think about that within the life of our parish congregation. Let me go on to my next slide. So we're going to talk about it in a few aspects today. I think you can, if I scoot this way, you can see my bullet points. So I want to talk about the identification process, the if you build it, they will come. Then we're going to talk about assessment. Who is your audience? Who is it that you are building for? Who is it that you want to come? We're going to talk about resources. How do you make it happen? How is it sustainable? How do you know whether or not this is something to invest in? Invest your time, your tangible resources, your parish resources, your school resources, etc. I also want to talk about the commodity of imposter syndrome. This is something that I talk about with students in the classroom. This is something I myself face and that I see other very successful formation leaders, secular leaders still face on a daily basis. And so that's something I want to hit on a little bit from a pedagogy standpoint. And then of course we'll have questions and discussions along the way. So here's what we're going to talk about in a little bit of short order. Okay, so now back to my original thought. If you build it, they will come. What does this actually mean? For Kevin Costner, that meant he was going to build a baseball field. He was going to use his resources to build this field, to take down other valuable commodities. In order to do this, he had to make some sacrifices. He did some things that were a little strange, a little peculiar, and the end result was exactly what he was seeking and what he was looking for. So I ask this of you in terms of when you're thinking about your parish programming, if you're a school chaplain, your curricular programming for your school chapel classes, your classrooms in world education and ethics, however it may be, if you're a hospital chaplain, how it is that you are considering your time and conversations with patients and the members of your team, so on and so forth. What is it that you are trying to build? What is it that you can build? And who is it that you want as your audience? Oftentimes we talk about things that we need. Oh, we need to have people here. We need to have this program be successful. This is how we're going to get the parish to grow. But oftentimes when I see folks planning their parish curriculums or their programs, whether it's lectures or classes or studies or various sessions, they don't stop often enough to figure out these small and actionable steps. Take the time to slow down and figure out what it is that you need to build and who it is that you will be teaching to. And for example, had Kevin Costner not taken these actionable steps to figure out what to build, he built a baseball field as a reminder. Had he built a football field there, would those baseball players have come out of the cornfield? Would his outcome have been the same? No, they would not. Know what I'm saying? Think about it. That's one very important aspect of this. Another big elephant in the room, even 5 years later, is the commodity of post-pandemic teaching. How are things the same? How have they changed? Ask yourself this. I think it is really, really tricky to think about using curriculums and models for teaching that worked really well in 2016 and 2018 and 2019. And while there are aspects of those things that can be useful, that are really valuable, the story may stay the same, but our way of transferring the information may be the aspect that changes. How do we do it? When do we do it? And in what methods are we saying these things? So there are things that I've done for 10 years, for example, 20 years, for example, that I have to shift. And while the story may stay the same, how it is that I'm going to interpret it with my audience is going to be different. So if it's worked for you in the past, unfortunately, having to accept the fact that it may have to be tweaked is something that's really hard to work with. Then the last aspect I want to share in this identification process is a playbook. Now, I've been in the field for a number of years. I've done a lot of teaching. I've seen a lot of really successful programs. I've been part of a lot of really great opportunities for learning and for education. Do I have a playbook? No. Do I have a lot of good and valuable lessons? Yes. Do I think that there's a one-size-fits-all model for how programming in a parish congregation or within a school chaplaincy or hospital chaplaincy setting can work? There are a lot of variables, and there are a lot of steps that you have to take to be able to make it work. It's part of your identification process. I wish that I could bottle it up, however, and if I could and sell it, I would, and it would be amazing. However, I want to help you organize your thoughts on the topic. I want to share some of my highlights towards a reboot or towards making it happen, and perhaps help cheer you on in the process and reinforce and reinsure what you're doing with your process and clap for you because you care. And again, I want to thank you today for being here. It's a joy to spend this hour with you. Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about assessing and asking questions towards who is your audience. So we've identified what is it that we need to build. Now let's talk about who is it that we're going to build it for. I always start with this first set of questions. You must know your audience, period. I've done a lot of different types of work within the realm of teaching, and anytime I'm having a conversation with someone, anytime I'm going into a classroom setting, anytime I have an opportunity to do any preaching, there is a various set of questions that I like to ask in order to be prepared and ready. I think this particularly extends towards teaching in any setting. So whether your practice is most dominantly preaching and you are preaching from a pulpit, you are likely going to find out several things. What's a typical Sunday service like? What's the order of service for this particular congregation? How does it extend? When is it that I will go to the pulpit? So on and so forth. When you're thinking about teaching and who it is that you're going to be teaching, whether it's young children, middle school age children, high schoolers, young adults, middlers, parents of young children, know who it is that you're teaching and make sure that the materials that you're teaching are applicable to that particular audience. What it is that I would teach to a group of middle school students, for example, is not the same materials exactly that I would teach even to a group of high school students. Things have to be changed. What is needed with regards to teaching your courses? This is something that I talk to our seminarians about often, being prepared in terms of, do you have your teaching materials prepared for what it is that you're going to teach? They hear me talk about this often. Where is your hole in your programming? Let's say, for example, that you have an opportunity to engage with a young group of high school age students. That is something that you have not had an opportunity to prepare before. And unlike any of your other programming, this group of students requires perhaps a different teacher, a different set of objectives, a different set of opportunities for when they're going to meet, a different set of timing, so on and so forth. So think about where is it that you need and when is it that you're going to do it? Next, what are their interests? Several years ago, I had a seminarian that was very, very engaged and interested in Tolkien. And so when it came time to write his end of the semester project, he wanted to write a full curriculum, 6-week curriculum, 6 sessions, each 90 minutes long on Tolkien. At the time, I thought, my goodness, I'm not sure that that would be of interest to students. Do you think that's something that they will enjoy? He said, yes, and it's going to be interesting because of how I'm going to teach it. So that is an important question for you to ask. What are the interests of the parishioners that you are going to teach? Are they interested in Paul? Are they interested in parables? Are they interested in the Psalms? Figure out what it is that they are going to want to spend time in studying and learning about in a group or individually. What are their abilities? This is a topic that I speak about often these days. Not only do you need to know who your audience is, you need to know what their abilities are. Let me share a personal story in this. In the late 1980s and the early 1990s, my family was unfortunately pushed away from our parish congregation. I have a severely disabled sibling, and at the time, our parish family said, we don't know how to accommodate you as part of our congregation anymore. And so we were pushed out. In this day and age, there is a great many needs to work with families that have neurodiverse family members. And so thinking about those types of family units, how is it that you can best help them? How is it you can best serve them as part of your parish community and congregation? And what types of activities might be inclusive of different learning styles and abilities? So thinking about what are the abilities of your parishioners, how best can we include them? And now the last part of this in asking and assessing these questions of who is your audience, thinking about when is the best time to do this? When is the best time to have a class? When is the best time to have a lecture series? When is the best time to gather our flock? This is something that has changed wildly since the pandemic. When I was a young youth minister, I was working with a large group of high school age students, and it was the best time to see them was on a Wednesday night, about 6:30 for dinner, after they'd completed their athletic events for the day, after they had finished their school homework for the day, whatever it might have been. So Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8, I got to see them. I got to see them again on Sunday evenings if we were lucky. And that was something that worked in that time. In 2025, families are competing with lots of different interests, whether they be sports or athletics or clubs or personal workouts or other adventures that families are included in. And unfortunately, sometimes the Sunday morning church hour in between services and Wednesday nights or Sunday night EYC isn't the time or the medium that is the best to work with people. So be thinking about when is it that you can best accommodate your parishioners to see them at a time that meets best for them. Justin, do we have any questions that we need to be talking about yet?
I haven't seen any questions so far, but if you've got any questions, folks, please throw them into the chat box.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's see here. I think I got off by a slide, but that's okay. The next aspect I want to talk about is resources. In the field of education, and Christian education, I would include within that, one of the biggest downfalls and pitfalls, or whatever you want to call it, is burnout. Secular classrooms are losing teachers left and right for a lot of reasons. A big contributing factor is that they've given it all that they can give. They haven't had support. They have had minimal resources, and they're burned out, so they leave. That's sad. I've seen that happen. And unfortunately, in times over the last 21 years, I have experienced this too personally. Now, don't forget, this can happen to you as well with your formation leaders. And likely, if you're a parish clergy person or a lay leader, you have experienced this with your volunteers and with other members of your ministry team that have been faithful stalwarts to help you build programming year after year. At one point, I knew that the national average for how long an employee would spend in a formation job, youth ministry jobs, was a matter of months. And recently I heard that that maybe has expanded marginally, but it is not over a year. It is still something that seems like it has been very, very low number of years. In the field of secular education, it is not common for a teacher to make it past year 3. So in thinking about how this works in terms of resources, our greatest resource to start off with are our volunteers and our teachers, our staffing, and our formation leaders. And I want to think about that for just a minute. Who is it that you are going to ask to help be with you to do this? So I wrote this PowerPoint a while ago, and one of the questions that I asked, and it made me just a little bit humorous in thinking about this, reality check. It's you and a glue stick. How are you going to make this happen? There have been a number of times when I have felt like my supply was as minimal as that of a glue stick, and I yet had to make it happen. I'm curious, within the context of your own parish experiences or church experiences, if you've experienced this, lack of resources, lack of support, lack of attention or interest, and have felt like you were a little bit isolated in the process. That's something that can so often happen. I think one of the, and going on to our next bullet point, don't be afraid to ask for help. Someone reminded me of this very recently, and it was something that I was grateful to be remembered to. It's even this many years into the process, it is a very big challenge to ask for help. I think one of the most challenging aspects of this kind of ministry in the process of bringing in help, and it is also asking for help. I am so sorry. I'm just having a little bit of tech trouble on my end where I can't see what. Justin, is it okay?
You're looking fine.
I'm so sorry. I lost my camera there for a minute and I got a little bit distracted. Sorry about that. Let me just get realigned here. I'm so sorry. 1 second. I'm so sorry. Let me just click back. Okay. The screen's still showing okay? Something came up on my end. I apologize. Please excuse me. So anyway, let's go back to my bullet point here talking about don't be afraid to ask for help. Here we go. There we go. Okay. I don't know what happened there, but I'll just go on. Anyway, one of the things that is really challenging in this day and age is knowing your limits, but also knowing when it is important to continue pressing forward. Several weeks ago, I was talking with a former colleague who is still working in the field in different dioceses, and he was sharing with me many of the aspects of their programming in his large parish congregation where he serves as the rector. In our conversation, we talked about many of these things that we're talking about today. How's it going in terms of your involvement? How is it in terms of figuring out and being creative towards what type of parish opportunities that you're providing, so on and so forth? And in many of those responses, he discussed many of these things likewise. He said, Hilary, we're really doing a great job in these particular areas. Here's where we're trying to grow. Here's where we're trying to figure out how to reboot. And here are some areas where we have not been successful. And the thing I appreciated in that conversation was his ability to stop and assess what it was that was working well, why it was working well, what aspects of that programming that they were finding success in from their parish congregation, and what it was that they were needing to figure out how to reboot and how to regrow. Those types of realities are very essential in what it is that I think will help support your parish programming and what it is that can also help you realize what it is that you need to be doing to help feed your flock, so to say. One of the things that I was the most drawn to based upon our conversation together with how they were using their resources is how important it was to him and to his staff that they figured out how to best serve their parish congregation at a time when they're not only growing, but they're facing a number of realities with the need to shift their programming. And I say that from the context of published curriculums, things that have worked for them for a number of years and have not been successful as of late. And so they have tried to figure out what was it that made it work that they now have to reboot, and they have to review and figure it out what they can do better. Prime example. I also heard recently from a parish priest that they have had a long-standing published curriculum programming happening at their parish congregation that they could no longer retain a teacher for, and that they were going to have to seek a different plan altogether. And in full disclosure, it was one of our published curriculums that is absolutely wonderful and historically has been a leader in the field, a very great program called Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, most of which you are familiar with. This parish priest said, Hilary, we've done this program for so many years, and unfortunately we can't find a teacher or a trainer that we can work with for our parish congregation, and moreover, we're not able to figure out a time during the context of our Sunday morning to teach the class. So they're trying to figure out how it is that they're going to reboot. And those questions and those opportunities to do that come up often, and they are important questions to be asking and to be working with. And when I say know your limits versus when to pump up the jam, I mean that within the context of please have those conversations about when it is that you need to make those changes. Sometimes the limit may exist in we can't find a teacher to teach it. We can't teach it within the context of our available schedule, and that is our limit for now. So now we have to reboot. And in other times, it may be a question of when is it that we can best do this? And if we can shift it to being at a different time, we need to. So in that regard, pump up the jam. Let's see here. Imposter syndrome. You can actually do it. Let me just move this over. I'm so sorry. I've just lost a great deal of my notes and slides. They are all over the place on my screen. I'm so sorry. Several years ago, when I first started teaching my course in parish administration and Christian education, I would start the class every semester giving each seminarian a pile of Post-it notes. And with that pile of Post-it notes, I would ask them as quickly as they could to write down and to think of as many opportunities that they could for interaction and for teaching. And very quickly, that pile of Post-it notes would become filled with opportunities for teaching and interaction. Some of those then would go into categories that they would select. And oftentimes we would put them into these different units: school chaplaincy, hospital chaplaincy, parish ministry, ecumenical and or civic ministry. Their touchstones for these interactions were vast, and year over year, semester to semester, sometimes these opportunities would be the same. So for example, they would say an opportunity to teach or to interact would be on Sunday mornings in Sunday school. That's always going to be a common one. Another opportunity that they would write down would be giving a homily during school chapel session, meeting with a patient at bedside, working with an organization, a non-for-profit organization, and having the opportunity to share the parables, so on and so forth. The lists for ministry are vast, and the opportunities for teaching are all over the map. And this is a good thing. So one of the things that I find in my work today, which is vast, my opportunities to interact are vast, and my opportunities to learn and grow amongst a community of people happen at every turn. Just because you are perhaps in one set or one realm of vocation, don't achieve the status of feeling like you're an imposter to another opportunity. So if you have had an opportunity to teach within a school chapel setting or a hospital chapel setting, don't feel like I am only relegated to teaching and learning within this sphere. It is an opportunity to teach and learn wherever you are and whoever you are with. So when you start to put together a curriculum or a program that is outside the realm of your understanding or your knowledge, take the time to go through the steps. Know who your students are, prepare your curriculum, be ready to interact with the group. And those things really have been helpful to me over time, even when I have an opportunity to interact with an audience that I don't know as well or am not able to see. Be prepared. It will help you. You know what it is that you teach and talk about, and be ready to do it wherever you are. So I still experience this from time to time myself, to be honest. And regardless of where it is that I end up and land teaching, even when the technology sometimes throws me, a wild, crazy hair, I have to keep going. And it's something that can happen so easily, but you have to remember, you can do it. You're going to be great. You are the president of your project. You can do this. So that's something I want to remind you of, that is a very big and present part of teachers that have taught every day for years and years and years. And even while you may not equate yourself as a teacher or as a teacher of small children or a teacher of teenagers or a teacher of middlers or of an older population, it is something that you are called to do. You are a teacher, you are a preacher, you can do it. One of the things that I find also to be very important from time to time after I've taught a class and that when I have been with a group of people, is to reflect on what happened. Did it go well? Did it not go well? And to figure out what it was that I can do when I do it again that will make it better. If it was awesome, I wanted to figure out why. If it didn't work well, I want to figure out what it is that I need to do so that next time when I am amongst the group or I'm with the people, I can make sure that it goes better for them, better for me, and overall the objectives are more clearly achieved. Another aspect that I want to communicate here is talking about being, see, there we go. There we go, is staying plugged in with others. I've mentioned in a couple of sessions or sections during our time today that I talk with a lot of parish clergy, I talk with a lot of former students, I talk with a lot of my former colleagues to stay plugged in. Though I am not practicing in a parish congregation currently full-time like I have in many years past, I still want to know what it is that's happening, how it is that they are achieving success, where it is that they're seeing downfalls, and where it is that they are seeing highlights in their time in the field. And that's something that I encourage you to do likewise. Find a thought partner, find someone that you know is devoted to this and finds to be a great joy in their life and their work through their ministry. Talk with them often. Ask them what it is that they're enjoying about their parish ministry's formation program currently, their time in school chaplaincy, their time in hospital chaplaincy, their time in ecumenical or civic ministry, wherever they may be. Our opportunity to learn from the successes of one another is something that I often take for granted. It is one of my greatest joys and teaching tools currently is experiencing the successes of others. So if you have not found someone that you can connect with and do this with, it's something I strongly encourage you to do. Whether that is your one takeaway from today or the opportunity to connect with others in this, that's something I hope you will find quickly. Okay.
Hilary,
Yes, sir.
do you want to take a question?
Yes, and I'm to the part where I actually do want to talk and have some questions. And so
Cool.
I'll take questions from the audience first, and then I want to offer up these questions for a little bit of feedback and discussion before we end today.
Cool. So, Rob Travis asked a question going back to the question about don't be stuck on the time that you choose to do this ministry. Be aware of how people's changing circumstances um, change their ability to engage with it. Is that how do you actually identify that? Because it's very easy from Rob's question to just to default to the old familiar. And the trouble
Yes.
with that is that the people who can come up that time and say this is a good time for them are the old people rather than being able to find out when's a good time for new people to come. So what's the best, have you got any tips about process for working out what might be a good new time to program?
Rob, thank you so much for your question. That's a fabulous follow-up opportunity for us, and I'm grateful for your question today. When I have had or experienced or engaged with program leaders and program directors, and myself included in that, let's say you've got the old guard wants to come on Thursday morning at 9:30, just for example of this story, and that has been something that is successful. I wouldn't disturb the old guard. I would let them continue doing what it is that is successful for them and what it is that is an opportune time for them. When you have new people that are interested in being part of the congregation or part of the program, I would ask them, what can we do for you? When can we do that for you? And how would that best work for your family's schedule so that we can start to incorporate you as quickly as possible in what it is that we're doing and offering here at this church or school or wherever it might be, assuming church. And I think that even if sometimes you have to go above and beyond to include people by offering an extra set of classes or an extra opportunity for engagement, that's something that we need to do. We need to be in the welcome business, being in the opportunity business, being in the let's figure out what works best for them so that we can include them as quickly as possible. And my husband and I have been in full-time ministry together, sometimes in different places for the last 20 years. And the number of times that we look at each other and say, oh my gosh, do you have to go back to the church? Yep, I have to, but I really need to do it because we need to make this happen. And that's something that can be a challenge personally for families. It can be very hard, and that's almost another topic that I could talk to you about for 5 or 6 more days. However, it's something that I think that if you are committed or interested or very curious about an opportunity to include new people, the question is, how can I help you be involved as soon as possible? And when is it that we can do that? That would be my immediate first response. However, I would love to talk with you about that some more.
Thank you. Thank you, Hilary.
Okay. Justin, anything else, or can I go on to
No,
some?
no, that's the open question that we've had so far. So remember, folks, if you've got questions or observations, comments, put them in the Q&A.
Okay, thank you. I also want to put some questions in here that I want to ask you. I know that we have a great many on our lunch and learn today, and so I have some questions that I want to ask you. There are some people on here that I know, fortunately, through having the opportunity to teach and to learn and grow with, and then others that I don't know. So I have a few questions that I want to ask you in conversation. I think, hold on, if I move this way, you might be able to see that there. So the first question, and you might be able to respond to this if you feel so called, what are some of the most challenging aspects for you of formation ministry? You might be able to answer to Q1, and so just type in Q1 in your response. And then here's question 2, if you would like to respond to. What brings you joy about your work leading or preparing for formation classes? That's Q2. And then question 3, what might be one takeaway from our time together today, other than Hilary is tragically sad with technology still in 2025? Don't let that be the takeaway, but hopefully you might have come away with something positive from our time today. And that's Q3. So if you might take a moment and type something in, I would love to hear from you. And this might be a good way for you to contribute to our Lunch and Learn today. Any friends sharing with us yet? I'm super curious. This is the part that's so challenging with a webinar. You can't see and you can't read, and you just got to wait until someone might respond.
Not seeing anything yet. Oh, hang on a second. Oh, okay. Program team guest. Um, hiding under hiding under anonymity, which awfully is something that in my experience is true. The most frustrating thing is the lack of interest.
The lack of interest. I agree with you. I
Uh,
think, oh, is there more to it? I
well,
want to.
no, I mean, I was going to say that I once heard somebody say that anti-intellectualism is the ecumenical success story of the 20th century. So, just not really wanting to. It, education formation is always something that every parish wants,
Yes,
so that we can say that it's put on without actually having to participate in it. So that's something.
that is
So,
so true.
so Rob, again, thank you, Rob, for your hard work at this. When we put a lot of effort into planning and creating a really engaging formation ministry for any age group, and very few or no people come.
Oh,
But I'm sure they're
oh,
glad that you're putting it on for somebody else to go to.
right. Oh my goodness. This is so, and oh, I hope I have an opportunity to engage with you. If you've asked a question today, or if you put a question in the chat, I'm including my information here at the bottom, and I would love to continue these conversations with you. Um, by individual Zoom where I can see you and I'm not on on a little tiny screen. However, let's talk about that for a second. That happens so often, and you go above and beyond to come up with a creative, engaging, multifaceted, differentiated learning, all aspects, all wheels go, and then no one comes, no one shows up. I I hate that for you, and I'm so sorry that that happens. And I know that that is really a true aspect of putting together these ministries and what it is that we're going to do with our parish congregation. I have lived it myself. Do I have the spell book on how it is to make this work? I don't. But one of the things that I have done personally, and I know this from my own having my own child, one of the things that I am just maybe have been burned a few too many times and do it. I get people to commit before I even put it together, and I say, who might possibly be the audience that I'm building this for? And so before I go above and beyond with coming up with a 6-week lesson plan and having all of these amazing guest speakers, and we're going to end with a water slide or whatever it is that I'm coming up with, I think about who is it that might come, who might be there, when, of course, when is it that it's going to work for them? And can I get them to commit to it before we put it together? Now, that's backwards for a lot of people in the process. And sometimes that works, and that might be really easily said for me sitting here in this little tiny Zoom screen. But it's one of the things that I have started doing more recently before even launching anything, before advertising it to the open public. Can I get a quorum to commit to it so I know I'm going to have some people there and some parishioners involved? And there's more to be said to that, right? Like it's always more complicated than that. There's more aspects to it that you have to consider. There's a lot going on with this and that and the other. But that is something that happens, and it's so discouraging. And what I want to say to you and to your team is thank you so much for putting the time and the effort into putting together a curriculum that matters and having the forethought and interest in being devoted to your congregation in a way that's meaningful. That is a huge step. So I applaud you in a big way for that. And I hope you will email me wherever it is. And I would love to talk with you about that some more and know more about what the rest of the story includes.
The two other observations for responses to question one, both of a theme but slightly different. Teresa talks about how the people who are wanting to engage with formation are very, very vocal about wanting to have technology streaming, and how do we fulfill this request from people? Because, of course, technology requires something slightly more than a glue stick.
It does. I know. And as you can see right now, I would have loved to have had a glue stick to work with and not this computer screen on this
Well,
particular
okay. Well,
thing.
you'll be pleased that David Luke Kenton says, please reassure Dr. Ward this is much smoother and more polished, hiccup-free than she thinks. Great work, thanks.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, which terrifies me about the quality of technology that David's used to. But let's set that by the by. So Teresa's wondering about, people are demanding something shiny with, high production values, and that requires investment of time and energy and money. And how do you find that out? The similar thing about, which is about another question about scarcity, is from Janice, 74. All we need to know is her first pet's name, and we've got her ID.
Friday, yeah.
Our
Log in.
congregation has shrunk tremendously. No children have attended regular services in months. The same 12 people attend adult meetings to study, but I haven't had many of those lately. So if you've got a scarcity of people engaging in it, then you have a scarcity of resources. Do you have to be able to put on something big and shiny to attract people in, or can you attract people in before the big and shiny thing happens?
Oh, both of these are wonderful. I want to talk about them for the rest of the day. These are great topics. So I want to go back to the first in the aspect of technology and including technology. And I say this too from the standpoint I'm bringing in my secular education background into this. And one of the aspects that is a positive to integrating technology into how people are interacting and learning is that it is one of the major aspects of necessity through the commodity of differentiated learning. So you're giving people multiple opportunities for engagement that work for them on a wide spectrum of ability and level. So when you're including aspects of technology, whether it be through a live stream or a Facebook Live or through recorded or digital media or closed captioning or showing videos or however that might be, it changes the way people learn. So there are positive aspects of including technology and making it inclusive for different learning styles. That may be something that, unbeknownst to you, may bring in people from another area that had not otherwise engaged with your parish congregation. Now, so I do want to give a plug for the positive nature of technology, regardless of what I think about it right now. Now, the thing is that technology has, over the last 5 years, has drastically changed. Our use, our expectations for what it should look like, how clean and polished everything should be, you're 100% correct. And when we're super dorky at our house, we really like watching church services from around the country and around the Anglican Union and watching their church services and seeing what their live streams look like. This is something we do for fun. Yes, I'm willing to admit it. So we may go to church in Chicago, and then we may go to church in Charlotte, and then we may go to church in London or in York, and so on and so forth, and experience what it is that's happening. The variety of opportunity to experience those services greatly changes. And sometimes it has to do with financial resources. Sometimes it has to do with times and talents of parishioners who are able to contribute to it gratis as part of their service to the community and the parish. Wide variety of things. I think that it is important to keep the content good. The technology is secondary to that. And that's something I know my husband is on here and he may be frustrated to hear me say that because he's a choir master. So he wants the sound on the camera to be as good as it is in person. We know that that's hard to achieve. Focus on the content, focus on the goodness of the content, work on the technology as a secondary part. That would be my thought on that. And then Justin, you gave me something as the second part talking about, read me the
Scarce,
second question again.
scarcity of people.
Oh, people. I know,
Yeah.
scarcity of people. Remember that where fewer gathered, keep that in mind. Quality is still important. Quantity, number of people, that's something that I take to heart. I teach in small groups. I think that the opportunity to engage in small groups is very important. And while that is such an important part of making sure we're maintaining numbers, we're growing numbers, we're engaging with lots of different types of people, we're offering classes that are going to pull in new people. The fact I'm happy to hear in what you said that you are still able to engage with a core group of people. That's important. That's good. And if that is a meaningful group and that is a set of people that is meaningful to one another and the content of what you're studying is important, that's a good thing. And don't discount that. However, if you're all sick of each other and tired of reading the same 12 books and you're ready for something else, then we have the if you build it, they will come question, figuring out what is it that's going to come next? Who is it that we're trying to include and where are we going to find them? So there's a couple of chapters in that. And again, I would love to continue talking with you about that and knowing more about the story and the specifics of that situation.
It's really encouraging seeing people responding to question two. What brings joy is a repeated thing about when we prepare something and people turn up, when we have the chance to interact with people, when it actually works
Yeah.
for a given value of work. And the joy that people get from contact and connection. That's, and I think that's true. I really do think that's true. One of the things that struck me in my 100 years of ministry is the encouragement that you get from seeing one transformed life,
Yes.
and just the one, just
Just
the one.
one. That's
It
right.
doesn't have to be 10,000 people.
Right.
And if you set yourself up for 10,000 is your threshold for reaching, then you're just going to be disappointed.
Yeah, the numbers always look great, right? Like it's
Mhm.
flashy to be able to say, "Oh, I had 900 people in the congregation today while I was preaching." Well, you know what? Was anyone listening? Did
Mhm.
anyone get anything from it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if you have an opportunity to preach to a group of 8 or 10 or 12 and all 12 of them were so meaningfully engaged because you were there with them and they felt that, I think that that's an amazing story. That's an amazing part of being able to provide ministry. And Justin, I love hearing that from you as well. I'm glad to hear that people are responding to question number 2. I think that's another thing to keep asking yourself along the way, because let me tell you, this work is hard. It's
Mhm.
very hard. It's very emotional. It's challenging. There are times in it when you may say, oh, why are we still doing this? But at the end of the day, the joy's there, whether it's for you in a very small sliver of a moment, or if it's from that opportunity to interact with a child or with a teenager or with a young adult or a person who has lost their way and found it. That's the energy that keeps you going and why we're still at it after all these years, because we know how good that feels. It's a blessing.
Rob has an interesting observation. Rob Travis, again, he's saying that they in his church they're reaching out to newcomers, and we've had 35 new people come to our church in the last year. Which I think, whoa, let's build a basilica. Uh,
Buku, buku.
he invited each of them to come to our newcomers class on Sunday mornings between services this fall. Only 3 have participated, and some weeks there was just one. I mean, I know how I'd respond to that, but your response, Hilary, is going to be much more interesting, much more informed. What would you say to Rob in that situation?
Well, Rob, what I would say in that situation, and this is something that I do in my secular work, I meet with people individually. I call them and I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be in the neighborhood. I know you're at work today. Can I bring you a coffee? I just want to come talk to you and connect. I just want to come see you. I'll meet you in the lobby of your building. I'll meet you around the corner at the Panera, whatever it might be, and go find them. Go see where they are. And I think that that's something that's really important, is just having that opportunity to engage with them so that they know you're showing up for them, and that isn't just that snippet of 20 minutes on a Sunday morning, that you are offering them your time, that you're offering them what it is that your church family and community can provide to them. Sometimes we have to take it to them. And again, that's more work, and sometimes that's a frustration.
Mm.
However, being able to offer them that ministry in another setting may give them what they need to make that connection, that stewardship opportunity, to build a stronger connect. Justin, what would you say?
Well, I would have said, Mazel tov that you've got newcomers coming to your church.
That's
Why
great.
are they coming?
Why are
What
they
is it that
coming?
they're looking for?
Yeah.
And perhaps that they're not looking for immediately formation. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps they think it's just a camouflaged operation to get them on the cleaning rota. You so they're dissuaded from that. But
Yeah.
to find out people are coming, why are they coming?
Why are they coming?
And then think about how does formation fit into
Right.
the needs that they've identified themselves.
That's right.
35 newcomers, Rob. That's fantastic. Be careful. I mean, you're bucking the trend in the Episcopal Church.
Yeah.
And that's not going to go down well. Um,
We're going to put you in a journal article and study you up close.
exactly.
Yeah.
Lathrop says that he's in presumably in a unique situation. I have three historic churches that have come together and become one. My congregation is spread out over a wide area, so I've had to think outside the box. They're used to Lenten series and a Zoom Bible study on a weeknight, but I've still not come up with the best way to approach it. This is for all ages as well, which strikes
Yes.
me as he's responding to the very beginning of it. Where am I? Where am I? And what is it that and where are my people? And what is it that they want? That beginning, going back and reflecting from first principles. I mean, what do you think?
That I have experienced this actually in a former parish congregation where two churches merged, and let me tell you, it was a hard row to hoe. One
Mm,
church parish congregation historically sat on one side, one sat on the other, and their expectations and their considerations for one another were nil. And what it was that they wanted to do together was not much. And they had their own traditions that they wanted to continue to acknowledge. However, when it came down to it, they knew that they had to be together for the sake of, do you want this or not?
mm,
And so it was hard because there were families that had been involved in these two churches. It was two churches that merged together. And over time, some of that dissipated, but there was still, were you part of this one or were you part of that one?
mm,
And even though the church name even merged itself, so that's a lot of personalities to manage. It really is. And sometimes in these program extraordinaires, that's one of, back to my, if you build it, they will come. That's one of the questions in this that I think is so integral to have to be able to stop and figure out, but what is it that they want? And what is it that they can be achieved together? What is it that can still be achieved while you're making that process of the merger successful? What is it you can do together? What can you do separate to accommodate all of them? What is it that you must do apart? And I think there's a lot of questions to be asked in that, right? And I'm sure that you are asking I think this might be, if it's Lathrop that I know and have taught, I'm sure that you are asking all of these questions individually of these parish congregations and finding those individual opportunities that you can start threading together. That's hard. That's very hard. And don't discount the fact that that is, and that you are trying to figure out what the resolution is. In so many of these circumstances and situations, whether it is the aspect of trying to figure out how to merge the congregations for formation ministry and find a curriculum or build your own curriculum that can work across the arc of age groups for all of them. I mean, that's like 6 different balls you're trying to juggle right there. Like that's a big order. That's a multi-course meal that you're trying to figure out how to digest. And so I think you have to take it apart. You have to start looking at the individual ingredients, and that is not easy. That is hard. That is very hard. So give yourself the space to figure out what it is that you need to do, recognizing that is going to take some time, and that isn't something you should expect for yourself or for your ministry team to have an answer to immediately. Is that something that I could solve immediately? Probably not. I would have to go through my Kevin Costner, standing in the field, figuring out what type of athletic equipment I needed to be able to play whatever game it was that was going to get them to show up. and it may take a minute. They may want badminton when you're trying to play tennis. And while it's close, it's not the same, so you're going to work through that in some time. And again, I would love to talk with you more about that in detail and figure out how to support you in a way that brings you joy to continue working forward.
Hilary, I'm very aware of the time that it's coming
Yes,
to 5 to, and you have to
12:45.
vacate the classroom for a new class coming in
I
at 9
do.
o'clock. I'm really encouraged by the responses. It's like Jesus talking about the scribes who bring out of their scripts things old and things new, and the joy that people are finding in, and the reassurance that they're looking for that they're not the only ones who are suffering.
That's right.
They're not the only ones who are struggling with this. So thank you all for your questions. Please do continue the conversation by contacting Hilary directly. She very foolishly has given you her
I
email
have.
address and an invitation for that. So make the most of it. I have to do my plea and my advert. The advert is the I hope that you're all seeing that. I don't know which screen is being shared here at the moment. Is my having technology. I hope you're all seeing that the program for Lunch and Learn for the coming year. Next Lunch and Learn is November the 4th, where we have Andrew Thompson, who's going to be talking about ethics for Christians and other aliens, the radical episcopal ethics of Scudder, Stringfellow, and Dozier. Please do sign up using the QR code. I don't think you'll need that because you've already worked out how to sign up to be able to participate in Hilary's today. And of course, being Anglican, then the thing that we actually have to mention right at the very end is if you would like to support the work of Lunch and Learn and people like Hilary, support Sewanee today using that QR code or episcopal.sewanee.edu. We will love to take your money off you, and folding money is a lot quieter and a lot more discreet than loose change. So I'd like to say thank you so much to Hilary for such, I mean, what's the proper Barn Barnabas is the son of encouragement. I don't know what the daughter of encouragement is in Hebrew, but you have definitely been a daughter of encouragement for those of us who are undertaking Christian education in all kinds of different contexts. And I'm really grateful for the enthusiasm, Hilary, and please do continue the conversation with her in future. Thank you all very much for coming, and I hope to see you all again in November for Andrew Thompson's Ethics for Christians and Other Aliens. Thank you all so much.